Oh, that was a pretty short break, so you probably didn't even have enough time to go grab something out of the refrigerator. But anyway, we're back for the last 30 minutes of this program. And again, I want to thank the people that have been viewers, and probably a lot of people didn't know the show was back on. So pass the word to those people that are, so that we can get people, to call in and talk about different things. I'm hoping Chucky's out there, because he always has really interesting questions too. So if you're out there, Chuck, and you feel like picking up the phone, call in, go ahead. So one of the things that Louis alluded to about blood pressure is, this process about what we want to do as we get older. So as we get older, the risk of falling and the risk of injury is greater than the risk of you actually having a problem with blood pressure, meaning we want to control your blood pressure when you're young, and the reason we want to do that is to prevent congestive heart failure, to protect against kidney damage. Some people feel Alzheimer's may be related, certain levels of Alzheimer's might be related to high blood pressure untreated when we're younger at certain ages. So it is important to prevent those long-term illnesses. But when you reach your 50s and 60s, you pretty much pass that golden opportunity to prevent those long-term illnesses. So now we just want to keep you healthy and keep you from falling and hitting your head on the corner of the bed. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Doc. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing great, actually. I'm actually working outside and sweating and doing all these normal things, and I haven't died yet. So.
That's good.
Yeah. Hey, I got a couple things. I've been getting hits from Quest, and it's not their fault, but they're charging me for these tests that doctors have ordered. And the reason they're charging me is Medicare is declining, to pay for it. And one was a simple glucose, blood test, and the other was a heart test that Dr. Savron ordered. Mm-hmm. And, they contact me, or they send me a bill for hundreds of dollars. I call them, and they say, well, you got to call the doctor's office. Have you run into that a lot of times now, where Medicare is suddenly refusing to accept a blood test or something like that?
Yeah, and what you're facing is that there was the doctor who ordered the blood test didn't put the right code or diagnosis code. So Medicare, when they put in a diagnosis code, there's a certain other codes that will be allowed underneath that diagnosis code. So it's kind of a computer thing. If you don't put in, let's say, high blood pressure or some other illness, then it may not cover this particular level of test. Sugar may not be covered unless you had glucose intolerance or possibly a history of diabetes. So all the doctor has to do is resubmit a new code to Quest, so that Quest can submit it to Medicare so that it can be covered. And there's a certain time frame at which that can be done, usually at about a year, so that otherwise, that's why they have you sign this little thing at the beginning, which says that if Medicare denies coverage, you're going to be responsible for the bill.
Yeah, what a ripoff. At any rate, thanks for answering that, because that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Well, I mean, Dr. Savron, unfortunately, I think has had a neck injury,
yes.
And so he's going to be out for a while. But I would talk to Casey in his office. That's his nurse.
Yeah.
And they should be able to take care of that for you, Chuck. I mean, and you just keep beating the door down until they do.
Yeah. Actually, I called Casey the other week, and unfortunately, Dr. Savron's going to have to retire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had a second operation. I saw him the day before, and it didn't turn out too great, apparently. And he's calling it quits. So
yeah,
Dr. Rhodes, I think, is going to be coming up here. They haven't worked out the schedule yet, though.
Yeah, that's a great loss. He's been a long-standing doctor in this community, and so you know, I think he'll take some time off, and hopefully he'll get better, and maybe he might rethink that. But probably better to make that transition now and then have him come back later, you know, to see more patients. But,
yeah.
yeah, we wish him well. That's
Yeah,
all we
without
can
a
do.
doubt. And I'm hoping to play golf with him one of these days.
Yeah.
At any rate, the final thing, it's regarding autism, and the CDC came out with a new ratio of people that get the autism, and it used to be 1 in like 80 something, and now it's 1 in 59. So it's getting worse.
Are they still linking that to vaccines? Are they trying to link that to vaccines?
Yeah, in fact, you got my CD or DVD.
Right.
Have you looked at it yet?
No, I mean, I have to admit, it's been a pretty tumultuous year for me. So I really would like to really watch the chemtrail one. That's the one I'm really interested. This vaccine autism thing is really, it's interesting, and I just, I know a lot of people talk about it, and then, you know, it's kind of one of these, they're both sides of the fence, and it's hard to say, it really is. It's just one of those things where the cure is worse than the disease, or is it worse to have these, measles and mumps and all the other vaccines that have come out with? I don't know the answer to that. That's a tough question. It really is.
Yeah, well, obviously we got to do something different because it's getting worse and worse.
Right.
At any rate, it's great to have you back. You now I have a reason for waiting for Monday night.
Yeah, well.
So welcome back, and great to have you.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Okay, goodbye.
I appreciate it. Yeah, those are all. There's been a link to, people have been trying to link vaccines to, you know, autism and those types of illnesses for a long period of time. And I hope that at some point we get to where, you know, some parents can refuse vaccines, but then the school puts a lot of pressure on those people to get those vaccinations. So I don't know how we ever do any type of study to, you know, find that out. We'll never know. And is autism, I mean, there's so many other factors in the world that affect people, so many chemicals, so much food, so many other things that might have some role. To blame it just on immunizations, the idea was, I think Chuck may be alluding to the fact, what was the incidence of autism prior to the invention of vaccines, and how has that progressed over time based on normal population growth? So if we had 1% when we didn't and we grew and it was disproportionate, then maybe that is the case. Paul, are you there? Paul?
Yeah, Doc, I was wondering, the other day I made a comment to a friend of mine that, boy, lately I've been feeling really tired. And he said, well, have your blood pressure checked. You probably got low blood pressure. Anything in that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. What was that now?
I made a comment to a friend of mine that I was feeling really tired lately all the time, and he said, well, you probably got low blood pressure. Is there any truth in low blood pressure
Yes.
and being tired all the time, or a combination?
Yes, we have natural baroreceptors in our body, which basically get used to a certain level of blood pressure. So when we lower our blood pressure, it usually is only transient, but when we lower our blood pressure or take new blood pressure pills, we will get tired and fatigued. And that usually takes about a month or maybe even 2 months for your body to get used to that new lower blood pressure. And if you're still tired and your blood pressure has come down more so than you were beforehand, then I suggest maybe there's some cardiac dysfunction. There may be something else that may be at play there. But it is normal for you to feel tired and fatigued and sleepy when your blood pressure goes low.
What about diet? Would diet have anything to do with it?
Does diet have anything to do with fatigue?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, sugar highs, sugar lows. If you're switching from, your body needs carbohydrates. If you're switching to a more protein-based diet and your body's been used to it, there's also a relative glycemia issue in our body. So I've seen this numerous times in my practice when I have patients come in and they're diabetics and their blood sugars are 300 and I lower them to 350. That would be the same as me taking a person who was at 110 and lowering them to 60. It feels the same way to that person. So, yeah, if you got blood pressure pills and you're changing your diet because the doctor told you better do this or you're going to, you know, end up 6 feet under. So that's a drastic life change, and that certainly would cause fatigue.
All righty then, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you for the call. Yeah, and that's a really interesting issue with what we call relative glycemia or baroreceptors, trying to lower people's blood sugar gingerly and slowly is very important so that people get used to this change, and true with blood pressure. And a lot of times there's so much vasoconstriction in the blood pressure that I can put you on blood pressure pills, but I usually don't like to evaluate a change in that for at least 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even longer, because that's how long it takes for those to start to lower your blood pressure. And even people that stop their medication will see the effects of those blood pressure pills remain in their system long after the pills have been discontinued. And then their blood pressure just gradually starts to creep back up. So don't do the experiment, which is, well, my blood pressure is normal now, I guess I'll just stop my medicines. And a lot of people do that. They said, or they'll give them a 1-month trial and have them come back and my blood pressure is good, so it's cured. No, once you have high blood pressure, you have it for life. It is not a disease like an infection where I treat you for your sore throat and it goes away and it doesn't maybe come back till next year or 2 years later. Blood pressure is a lifetime diagnosis. It may be controlled, but it's not going away. Diabetes is a lifetime illness. Just because your sugars are normal doesn't mean you're no longer a diabetic. So there are some illnesses that we carry for life. Depression is another illness that is a lifelong illness. Once you've been declared as depressed, you always have that diagnosis. Doesn't mean that you're currently depressed. In fact, when we cure your depression, you're in remission. And then there are times when you can go out of remission and your symptoms can come back, or they may come with a new level of depression or a new situation that is developed. So when you see that, you see that diagnosis, if you're a Medicare patient and you're depressed and you see it following with you, that's Medicare. Medicare established that depression was a lifelong illness, and a lot of those are. So we're going to go break, and when we come back, we'll be here for the last segment. Thank you for tuning in.